Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose Tuned podcast. I'm the host of this podcast. The goal of the show is to create valuable content to broaden your knowledge, inspire you to act, and get you in the right mindset so you can apply it in your own life to drive impact, generate meaning, and achieve your purpose. Now, today's guest is Kevin Cashman. Kevin is a best-selling author, global thought leader, and CEO coaching expert, as well as keynote speaker and pioneer of the grow the whole person to grow the whole leader approach to CEO coaching. He is the founder of LeaderSource and the chief executive institute recognized as one of the top three enterprise leadership development programs globally. In 2006, LeaderSource was acquired by Korn Ferry, one of the top executive search in the world, where Kevin is now global co-leader of CEO and enterprise leader development across 130 offices internationally. Kevin has likely coached and advised more CEOs than anyone in the world in the space of leadership. Kevin, welcome to this talk. How are you doing?
Hey, Kong, great to see you. And it's been way too long. So I'm very happy to have this conversation.
Yeah. We were just talking earlier before the recording, just when the last time we connected. And uh I have always viewed you as a leader that I aspire to, and to be able to spend some time with you today is it's incredible. I feel very grateful, and thank you so much for setting some time out of your
Well,
busy.
it's really my pleasure. And I have to say, I don't know about all this esteemed CEO coach business that you might see me as. I remember the last time we interacted on the elevator in Minneapolis, and you commented on the clothes I was wearing. Like, you might as well have said, "You're so old, but you dress so young." I remember that really well.
You know, I mean, you look the part, and your presence is inspiring, and I still look up to you to till this day, even though our first interaction was what, 10 years ago. And you've always had that impression on me of someone that I aspire to, someone that people look up to as a leader. And we both are in this people business where we want people to grow and be the best version of themselves and equip them with the right skills and tools and knowledge. And when you come across, uh, you know, when I see you from across either the hallway or someplace, around the elevator, it just makes me, yeah, I just feel mesmerized, and so I just,
Well, thank you. I really am very honored by you saying that. Thank you.
yeah.
And you brought up this idea of presence. I never followed through on it, but I always thought that presence might be like a master competency of competencies in leadership,
Mm.
because ultimately we have to be present with ourselves, present with whoever we're with, present with our team and relationships, present with the marketplace and customer needs, and then ultimately present with the planet to make sure that what we're doing, enlivens everything. So
Mhm.
presence is pretty profound. So I don't think I've mastered it, but if I've given you a glimmer of it, I'm satisfied.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing that. Speaking of competencies in leadership, what do you see in today's marketplace are the top three competencies that a great leader needs to have in order to thrive?
That's a big question, Con. Big question. And our view on that is evolving, and competencies or skills used to be foundational to leadership. Now they're a part of leadership, and there's actually mindsets that are even more foundational. But to answer your question, so I'm not just evading your question here. So I think there's a whole cluster of competencies around personal leadership, self-awareness, uh, traits, that are part of the person and so on. So there are a whole cluster of skills and competencies around personal leadership. Then the second area of competencies has to do with team and relational leadership. So all sorts of things in there. And then the third area is strategic and systems leadership.
Mhm.
And it sounds like two different things, but they really dance well together, hopefully. And that's what's the impact we're having? How does the form of business or whatever we're doing and contributing meet that? How do we need to change the system?
Mhm.
And how do we need to cooperate with the system to get things done? So basically, I think personal leadership, team leadership, and then systems and strategic leadership are kind of the core clusters of competencies.
Mhm.
Now, there is something deeper though, and I know you touch on it. And what's deeper than competencies are mindsets,
Mhm.
because we could be great at a strategic competency, but let's say our courage mindset is not very open or well developed.
Mhm.
Then even though we're competent at strategy, we may withhold critical expression or information at exactly the wrong time. And then that mindset shuts down our competency. So mindsets either open up and further our competencies so that they can have more impact, or diminish them.
Mhm.
And we can talk at some point about what we think through research the five mindsets are that account for about 80% of leadership. They're not every mindset. There's an infinite number of mindsets, but through research, we boil it down to, the five primary ones.
I actually did not know that there's more than one mindset in terms of, for me, it was
Oh,
mindset was
that's interesting.
mindset. The way that I looked at it was you either have a positive mindset or a negative mindset, right? And that's considered, I guess, in my view, as
Well,
it's
that's
supposed to
that's
be, right?
that is one of them. There's something called Big Five psychology that there are five different continuums of personality that almost all psychometrics are based on. And one of them is it's the neuroticism scale, but it's how positive or negative neurotic we are. And that's one of five. So um, I think, but positive mindset, which really relates to Seligman's work and positive psychology, the growth mindset that relates to Carol Dweck's work, it's another one. So there is a lot.
Mm.
And I would say our mindsets are shifting a lot all day long, opening and closing to different things. And leaders need to be aware of that, to know, oh, am I about to behave out of fear? And then therefore I want to control or
Mhm.
disarm things because I'm fearful. Or am I really open and progressive and inspirational? So leaders have to be aware of their mindsets, or they won't be aware of their behavior.
So let's step back a little bit. How do you define mindset for the folks that are not aware of this work?
Yeah, it's maybe an easy way to understand it might be it's an attitude that we have in a certain situation. It's
Mhm.
not just the situation. We have a relationship or attitude about it. We're open, we're closed, we like this, we don't like it. It could be an attitude, could be a belief system that, the software of leadership and behavior is a belief system underneath it that says this is so, this is not so, and so on. Um, but a mindset is like a camera aperture
Mhm.
that is very open. Now, the problem, this is where the metaphor or analogy breaks down because you let too much light in, you overexpose. But in terms of mindsets, the more open we can be
Mhm.
to positive mindset, growth mindset, or the five that we've researched, uh, the more um, life enriching impact we can have. And the more closed we are, the more fear based or controlled our behavior will be. And we're seeing a lot of closed mindsets in the world now and around the world. And it's, creating a difficult situation.
Right. And it's also the energy too that's felt when you have people operating from a place of fear versus inspiration and hope and openness. How do you,
Yes.
as a leader that have coached so many CEOs, get them to encourage to open up to either different perspectives or views of the world and really listen to what the people have to say in order to create a culture that's healthy and sustainable?
Yeah, I think the greatest way to influence not all leaders, but leaders that want to want to improve themselves,
Mhm.
um, is to show them that there's another way that might work better. For
Mhm.
instance, I remember sitting down with a new CEO. I'd never met him before. And I sat down, and we were at this little table sitting next to each other. And then he started pounding on my desk
Oh.
and saying, I wish other people were as open as me. And so I start backing up in my chair going, oh, this is gonna be tough. And why did I get this particular referral? And so I'm going through all my reactions. Fortunately, I became aware of my reactions and went, oh, this is what it's like to be around this guy. And I started inquiring, well, you really value openness, don't you? Oh, yeah, open, open, open. And we did a 360, did an assessment. Well, it turns out he was open to being right,
Mhm.
open to being the most dominant person in the room, open to have the best answer, but he was very closed to other people, emotional expression, vulnerability, on and on and on.
Mhm.
So we helped him see that. Now, the funny conclusion to this is after working together for a few months, he came in one day and he said, I don't know what's happening. And I said, what do you mean? What's going on? Other people are opening up to me and contributing and challenging me and so on. And then he said, have you been working with them? No, I don't work with them at all. And then he finally started to click that as he opened up, it opened others up, and it created a different culture, because usually the CEO is like the foreground of a bigger culture, and people look to the CEO for modeling what's acceptable or not. So I sometimes think we should stop calling leaders leaders, because it's kind of a hierarchical, well, it is a hierarchical model.
Mm,
But and we should ban, or not ban the word, but quit using leaders and use openers,
interesting. Okay.
because leaders that are more open to themselves, what they have, what they don't have, open to others, open to new and different things,
Mm,
they'll tend to thrive better, particularly in, today's world.
right. Well, there's a quote that I read somewhere that says that just because someone has a title does not make them a leader.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
how the person treats their team, people around them, the relationships that they're able to build and cultivate.
Yes. And if you think of it from an opener standpoint,
Mm,
sometimes leaders are really tough on others because they're so tough on themselves, right? They're not actually open to being kind to themselves and therefore others. So it's the opener idea is key. And I do not look at leadership um, hierarchically or tenure wise or anything. To
mm,
me, what we've seen over the years is the people who can most authentically um, express to create enduring value for others. Doesn't matter their job, they're the leaders.
mm,
And those are the people you want to find and develop and nurture. And that's how cultures really change, as the leader signals it and gives people the resources to not just change, but to grow and develop into a more creative way of dealing with everything we're dealing with.
right. How do you coach leaders to find balance and a sense of connectivity within themselves when they have so much to deal with from a
Yeah.
business operation standpoint? You mentioned the word pause, and so I'd like to, you know, um, dig a little deeper into what that means.
Well, pause is a very powerful concept to me. I think pause powers purpose, and purpose powers performance.
Mm,
Um, it's really hard to think of something totally transformative that didn't rise out of pause. Um, that's true in development. You take a pause, you look at an assessment, you hear what other people are saying, you maybe, think about what your partner has been saying to you, and then you go, maybe I should think about this. That's a big pause. Strategy is a big pause. Where's the world headed? Where's the marketplace headed? Do we really have what is needed to improve things? That's a big pause. Um, just spiritual development is almost always a pause, whether it's meditation, prayer, reflection, com, uh, contemplation, on and on and on. They're all different forms of stepping back, pausing to get a new perspective, to go forward in new and different ways. So to me, in the book, The Pause Principle, I broke it. There's kind of like mindsets, is an infinite number of ways to pause. So one of the challenges of the book was to how to break down the most important pauses. So the book is broken down to how do you pause to grow yourself?
mm,
how do we pause to grow relationships? And how do we pause to innovate? Um, so there's too much performance and not enough purposeful pause to elevate performance in new and different ways.
Mhm.
Now, there is kind of a perform part, the core business we have to keep going. But the business or person who's not looking how to transform themselves or their business is in for a really tough ride,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
The world's trying to teach us what's needed, even when it's really harsh. So pausing to grow ourselves, grow others, and grow innovation, I think are some of the most potent pauses.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to hear. The
Now, the first part of your question, though, I just remembered it, by the way. The first part of your question was hinting at maybe the challenges of resilience,
Mhm.
of dealing with the incessant, relentless requirements of leadership.
Mhm.
And it's really easy to go, oh, those leaders, they have it so good. They're, all this compensation and all this kind of stuff. We create a mythology, good or bad, about them. But one of the things I've learned in being around so many CEOs is how difficult it is.
Right.
And particularly for people who are well intended. If you're not well intended, maybe it's quote easier on you, but not on everyone around you. But um, it's challenging because 24/7, relentless performance, we're at the center, and it's tough. So the need to step out of it, some with exercise, meditation, whatever the practices of pause are, to kind of shake off the day and get ready for the next day. It's important to all humans. It's particularly important to leaders because they don't get a break.
Right.
And as we develop people, no one comes to us and says, Kong, put your feet up on your desk, relax, think about the day and, energy and all. No one, I mean, if we're lucky, someone comes to us, but very rarely does anyone else come to us with that. So it's maybe our main responsibility to perform with resilience is take care of our energy.
Right. Well, the thing too is it's how do you take care of other people and or your company if you don't take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's a simple concept, but yet I've met too many leaders that are often in this driving, stage, and they're always going and going until their health is on the line. And so there has to be a balance between your health, your work, and your life. And with technology continue to evolve, there has to be ways how we can do things more efficient so that we can actually take some time to take care of ourselves as leaders.
Technology, it's a relationship,
Mhm.
and that relationship can save us time, and maybe AI will, help us save more and more time. Um, but it also can, be unrelenting occupation of the best parts of our brain on someone else's agenda and maybe not our purpose. So it's a relationship like anything else. And so we have to be aware of what's the relationship that serves us and doesn't serve us.
Right. You mentioned purpose a few times, and of course, this podcast is about purpose. What's your definition of purpose?
Okay, now you asked me a real question. um, Purpose is the engagement of our gifts along with our growth edge
Hmm,
to give others something very important. Now,
it's beautiful.
purpose is maybe there's a whole framework behind what I just said, but in the simplest terms, it's where our gifts and our growth edge are making lives better, right?
Right.
So purpose is not purposeful until it touches the lives of other people. It's
Hmm,
just a concept. It has to be coming from the best part of ourselves, helps to enhance other people's lives. And we have a framework that's a Venn diagram that needs to come together for purpose to be profound. And that is, what are our gifts? And it's hard to see our gifts sometimes because, we're the fish in water, analogies. They're so close to us. So to objectively see what our gifts are is no easy task. And the second thing is, what do we need to grow? The second G, first G is gifts, second G is grow. What do we need to grow to make our gifts more powerful? There's always something.
hmm.
And then the third thing is, what do we want to give that really gives meaning because it touches other people's lives? So the articulation of that um, is really important. I can give you an example if you want, but the
Hmm,
articulation of those three G's and how they come together becomes like a mantra, meaning a powerful, deep thought that can reset us in a flash in the moment. So because we get off of our gifts or we're not bringing them forward enough, or we forget, oh, I'm frustrated, this is my grow.
hmm.
Oh, I'm worried about my compensation, so the hell with the give now. We're being thrown off balance constantly, but being able to articulate these three G's and bring them together is it's a powerful thing that helps people be their best with others.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, One question that I wanted to ask you is, how does spirituality tie into leadership?
Yeah, it's another big question. I love this. Yeah.
And the reason why I'm asking is because we have research and data to provide what provide us insight to what makes a great leader. However, I'm also just as interested in how does spirituality tie into who we are. Because for me, I don't have a particular religion, but I do believe that there's a higher power. You can call it the universe, God, whatever it is, that's guiding us.
I don't think it cares what it's called,
Yeah, and
whatever it is.
so whatever it is, whatever it is, and and you mentioned energy, which is a key word that I
Yeah.
think ties into spirituality. And so I guess my question is, how how does spirituality tie into leadership, and how can we use it to uplift the human soul so that leaders can perform at a even higher level, knowing that they're guided by, whatever this energy is, to make the biggest impact on people's lives for the better.
Yes. This is a really big question for leadership development. And when I'm writing, I really try to use words
Mhm.
that don't confuse spirituality and religion and so on, because it's, for instance, what your experience is right now spiritually, whatever it is, I can't really, I can feel a presence, but I can't measure it or nail it down, right? I wish I could, but if I'm honest with you, right? So it's a very subjective experience. So that presents some difficulties in leadership because leadership's trying to become a science of measurement and so on.
Right.
So there is that part. But do I think it's foundationally relevant? Yes. How I look at it, and I sense it's maybe similar with you, to if spirituality is in everything,
Mhm.
here, there, and everywhere, and beyond everywhere, right? Then how can it not be part of leadership?
Right.
It has to be.
Yes.
Now, how we do that ourselves and or encourage it in leadership development, right? I mean, I'm very careful to um, try to guide not only someone's coaching journey, but
Mhm.
guide their spiritual journey too, right? Like somebody may ask me, God, I think I'd love to meditate. I hear you've been meditating for how many years? 50, 60 years or something like that. And I go, yeah, that's true. But, I found the technique that works for me. But I went through a lot of different ones before it clicked
Yeah.
because there's so many different kinds of meditation. It's become this desirable word, but finding the pathway that works for us. So I try to give people options so they find their own experience or ways to balance and so on. But I think it's totally relevant, um, but not very, I don't know if it can be, well researched and codified,
Mhm.
right? Definitely calm leaders, aware leaders, purpose-driven leaders, inclusive leaders, um, innovative leaders. They're tuned into something.
Mhm.
They're tuned into something. So I'm always most interested in what are life principles, meaning love, even though maybe our world doesn't follow it so well, but love is a pretty good principle that holds up trust, courage, purpose. So there's some principles that we can go back to the early times in humanity, and even if we couldn't embody them, they were held to be a cause and effect relationship, which is what research is trying to do. So the principles that actually produce a positive result more often than not, I'm interested in those and write about those principles.
Mhm.
And then what I'm interested is when research catches up. I mean, self-awareness used to be a very esoteric thing.
Mhm.
And then research caught up, and now everyone goes, sure, self-awareness, right? Purpose, courage, all these things. So I love it when there's a principle that gets proven and current research, then that's what I write about. That it can go back in time, it can go forward in time, it'll probably hold up. So now, if we have to call those spiritual principles, we can. I just don't force that. In fact, I say the word spiritual very little in my writings,
Hmm.
but people come to me and go, "Oh, that's so spiritual." I go, "Oh." It's, it's to me, it's those enduring principles that enrich life is what I'm interested in.
Well, I, I I was just thinking as you were speaking, if you're writing these principles, you're tapping to your creativity, correct? And if your creativity is
And others who, figured that out before me.
right, right. But it's your ability to identify who those people are and then incorporate their work into your writing.
Yeah.
Do you say that that's a sense of spirituality because your creativity ties into the energy you're tapping into?
Depends where your mindset is at.
Right.
Um, when I write, do I feel like a meditation experience, the
Right.
mindset, a
You feel some
connected
flow.
mindset? Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why, writing is so compelling. But sometimes it's a keynote where, I remember this keynote in Salt Lake City with 5,000 people, and I was telling this pretty emotional story, and I could hear a pin drop. It was like, oh, we are connected right now. So that's pretty cool too.
Right.
And with in a in a really great coaching session, time stops, presence is full, relevance is there,
Mhm.
and you're really on purpose together. Those are other moments. So I think spirituality is here, there, and everywhere, all of the time. And how open are we?
Right.
Is the gatekeeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have so much that we haven't even understood. I mean, scientists continue to discover new concepts, new ideas, and new things. And so we're not, I don't think we're at our full capacity in understanding how the world works.
We don't even know. We don't even know where we are in
Right.
the continuum of capacity, much less know what's possible. I heard the other day, I'm fascinated with, I did a keynote at NASA and got a really amazing tour, and it kind of hooked me on NASA. And I saw the satellite being built with all the gold panels while I was there. And now that's a million miles out from Earth, looking back in time and really getting back there and seeing things that we didn't predict. And then I heard one of these NASA people the other day say, it's likely that this whole universe that we haven't even comprehended yet, but maybe we will, is probably just an atom in a bigger system. Probably. So
Crazy.
it's way beyond. And you know, I think you know, AI is gonna help us comprehend ourselves and
Mm.
our place in the universe if we survive. But I find this thing about human beings that we always want to learn, we always want to explore, we always want to discover.
Mhm.
To me, that's the beautiful impulse of human beings and what we do in leadership development.
Mhm.
Help people explore see what the new boundaries are and possibilities for them and others. It's when it does that, leadership's a real noble profession. When it just serves us, it's not very noble, and it can create a lot of damage.
Yeah. What's your latest thinking on our current um, leadership? Um, I guess what's your current state on our? I don't want to talk too much about politics, but of course, that needs to
You're there. We're here right now, man.
we're here. Yeah. What's your take on the world as it sees us, America, as that bright shining star, and now um, you know, we're faced with a lot of chaos at the moment, and how do we navigate through that? And what inspiration can you share with us to enlighten the world so that we can create better leaders, better people with the openness to make long-lasting positive impact in society?
Well, you said, well, what do I have to share that will enlighten the world? Would I have to be ego-centered to even think I could do that? But what might contribute? I tell you what I've been thinking about over the last couple of days is how major companies connected to DEI,
Mhm.
and I'm in Minneapolis, so with George Floyd and all of that.
Yeah.
And it appeared that companies and our society really connected to it. But now I think that was just a fear response,
Mhm.
meaning we better do this for our self-protection.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because now companies are running away from it, right? Out of fear and self protection,
Mhm.
right? For good reason, for very good reason, and policies and so on. So, on the one hand, I'm a little disappointed in the courage and purpose that has not stayed consistent. The amount of adaptive behaviors is disappointing.
Mhm.
Um, but I always tell all of our consultants, if everyone was full of courage and purpose and service, we wouldn't have anything to do. So I always remind myself, if leaders need to elevate their leadership, well, it gives us a lot of purpose. I'm disappointed, but it shows me how much work
Mhm.
there is, probably for generations,
Mhm.
to not probably, well, most likely for generations to really elevate the world to a more purposeful place.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's what I've been thinking about a lot.
I think you hit on some major points there. Courage, openness, um, and you alluded to love, and I think we need all of that right now in a world that is primarily, I think, fear-based. And it's probably, if not, very likely that we're operating from a fear-based mentality. And we have to be present in order to understand that fear doesn't do anyone any good, and that there has to be moments where we can actually pause and say, "Oh, that was a thought. that was fear-based. How can I change that to be positive
Yeah,
and actually
yeah.
be uh,
That,
hopeful?
if a critical mass of people, learn that methodology, it's a self-awareness that leads to new and different enriching behaviors. But two of our five mindsets are purpose and courage. And
Mhm.
these two mindsets really create a lot of value by dancing together. For instance, if we have a lot of purpose but low courage, we have a lot of nice ideas, but nothing happens, right?
Right.
And on the other hand, if we have high courage and no purpose, we can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So those two mindsets, I'm very interested how mindsets blend and create a gestalt that gives new possibilities. Two other mindsets that really complement each other or dance well together are inclusion. Okay. I'm not talking DEI, although something that would encompass that, but not make it dogmatic or self-righteous, just the connectedness of people and so on. So inclusion and integrative thinking, meaning we connect the dots, but we're always looking for the new dot that will change the whole game. These two really dance well together because inclusiveness or including what's not being said or what's hidden, in a system, um, that helps us see new and different dots. And then integrated thinking tends to pull all those together into a new kind of gestalt or innovation. So those two really dance well together. The fifth mindset is self awareness, and that's like foundational to everything.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
sorry if I gave you too much, but I
no, that's perfect.
can't.
The fact that you mentioned it so people can actually take a look and maybe tap into your work and see how they can learn more about it. Um, Kevin, I know we're about that time, and I would love to talk to you for the entire day, but I got to be respectful of your time. What's one thing you would share with my listeners about purpose, or perhaps anything that we haven't covered here that you want to mention as relates to, leading a purposeful life, or um, you know, what it takes to be a leader, or whatever that's on.
Hmm. I really think there's just two things we're navigating, and sometime, and I would say they're self and situation. We're
Mhm.
always navigating with these two things. And whenever, as people or family members or leaders in all fields of life, when we feel like the situation's bigger than us, there's always a way beyond that.
Mhm.
So, whenever we feel, and all of us as humans have experienced those situations that are overwhelming, that's a call to expand, encourage, strengthen self. And when self can be bigger than the situation, life's good. Even if it's difficult by everyone's standard, life's good. But when the reverse happens, it's tough. So dedicating ourselves to growing self to meet different situations, to me, is something I wish I had been taught at a much younger age.
Well, you've certainly made an impact on me when I was younger, and I think that your work is and will continue to make a positive difference in not just the leaders you worked with that are, much older than me, but also those that are aspiring to be leaders in their own way, that are in their 20s and 30s. And so,
Because we're all leaders of life.
mhm,
We're all leaders of life. And so the same principles apply. Really doesn't matter the role. It doesn't matter the age.
mhm.
Doesn't matter the experience. The more we attempt to be a leader of life, the better our lives will be, even if they're difficult.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your insight.
Oh, Kong, my pleasure, and it's so great to see you again. And stay safe in where you are. I heard it rain the other day, which poses other risks, but at least eliminates one.
Yeah, it's we needed that after all this LA fires and everything. But I'm safe and we're safe so far. So,
Beautiful.
where can people find you if they're inspired by this podcast episode and wanted to learn more about your work and get connected with you?
Well, I have a website that's connected to Korn Ferry, but it's also my own website called CashmanLeadership.com. Cashman, looks like it sounds, leadership.com. So that's one place. Another place is I have a little podcast, but I call it a pausecast, and it's called the CEO Pausecast, and it's on YouTube, and it's only 5 minutes. So as I mentioned to Kong, if you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a life. So you've got 5 minutes. So that's the whole concept of it, to really profoundly pause in a short period of time.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Well, folks, if you enjoy this podcast episode and you want to get in touch with Kevin, you know where to find him. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, we'll see you next time.